Friends, in this video we are detailedly study about field-oriented control scheme of your electrical drives. So let's begin. Friends, in this video we can understand what are the different advanced control technique of your induction motor. As we know that the induction motor will be basically control a speed by means of the V by F control scheme. So basically these are the variable frequency drive with a sensor and without sensorless advanced control technique. So the first speed control technique will be called it as the scalar control. So as we seen in that particular scalar control, so what do we mean by the scalar control? So obviously in the scalar control we are directly controlling the ratio of the V by F ratio constant. So we can get the value of the flux remaining the constant. So this technique of the speed control we call it as the scalar control of your induction motor. So the another type of the advanced control technique which is called as a vector control, and in the vector control basically this control technique will be classified into two categories. First one which is called as DTC. So what do you mean by the DTC? DTC is direct torque control scheme. So this direct torque control scheme, again we are classification will be two, that is a DSC, that is direct self control, and SVM, that is space vector modulation technique. So friends, these are the various types of the direct torque control of your vector control scheme. So friends, after that one of the very important technique, that is advanced control technique, which is called as FOC. So what do you mean by the FOC? That is a field oriented control. So in the field oriented control, this scheme is again classified into two categories. First one is called as a direct FOC, that is direct field oriented control scheme, and indirect field oriented control scheme. So basically friends, in this particular video now we want to understand what are the different concepts of FOC, because since from the previous videos we had already discussed about the scalar control quantity, we had already discussed about the direct torque quantity. Now we can basically concentrate on the field oriented control of your induction motor drive. So friends, let's begin what are the different concepts of the field oriented control scheme of your industrial drive. So the first of all we can understand what should be the block diagram, that is a basic block diagram of your field oriented control. So first of all we can understand what do you mean by the field oriented control scheme. So the name itself indicates its meaning. So basically in concern with the field oriented control scheme, so we have this will be the latest vector control scheme. So in the vector control scheme we want to use the field oriented some of the parameter which will be called it as a d-axis parameter and q-axis parameter. So first of all we can getting what will be the basic idea behind the field oriented control. So friends, as we have the three phase components, we call it as ABC. So these are the three phase component, we call it as the different phasor components. I can write here. So these are the different phasor components are there, means we are obviously we are giving the supply to the stator winding of your induction motor. So we are applying the three phase supply. So friends, in that particular field oriented control scheme, first of all this three phasor quantity will be transformation will be done. So this will be the symbol of the transformation. So transformation will be done to the basically the alpha beta frame. So what do you mean by the alpha beta frame? So basically alpha beta frame is the stationary frame. As we know that when we are converting, means we are having the three phase supply, that is phase basically R, or we call it as phase A, that is phase B and phase C, and these all phases are 120 degree apart from each other. Okay, so this will be the three phase supply. Now we want to convert that the three phase supply, that will be the transformation, to the alpha and beta stationary frame. So friends, as we seen that this will be the stationary frame of your alpha and this will be the beta frame. Okay, so now we are dividing this component of your ABC into the two frame, that is called as stationary frame, and we convert that into alpha and beta. So friends, so this transformation we called it as Clark's transformation. So it will be the Clark transformation. So after that again we are getting another type of transformation. So that the transformation will be done by the means of your Park's transformation, that is Parks transformation. So by the arc transformation, now we are converting that the stationary frame component into a rotary frame component. So basically, suppose it will be alpha and beta frame. Now we want to convert the different components into D and Q. So what do you mean by the D and Q frame? So this is the direct axis and quadrature axis. The angle between that will be the 90-degree. Basically, what do you mean by the d-axis component and what do you mean by the q-axis component? Basically, d-axis component and q-axis component are the conversion of the stationary frame component into a rotatory frame. So now we are converting these quantities into different rotating frame. So we can get the value of the rotor angle of that particular thing in terms of your d-axis component as well as the q-axis component. And now depending upon that, so this is called as one of the type of transformation. Similarly, we can using the inverse transformation for the conversion of the rotating frame quantity into stationary frame quantity, stationary frame quantity into phase control quantity. So friends, now this D and Q quantities are given to your induction motor model. We call it as this model will be machines DQ model, and in that particular DQ model we are converting the stator value of current that will be basically divided into rotor current, or we call it as a rotor angle. It will be converted into two parameters which will be called it as IDS, that is a direct axis current, and IQS, that is called as quadrature axis current. So simply we can change the value of the rotor angle of your system by means of the field oriented control. So this whole scheme will be treated as a field oriented control system, because as we know that in the first, that is the three phase field will be converted into a stationary frame field that will be called it as alpha and beta. Now this stationary frame will be converted into rotatory frame. So obviously this term which will be called it as field oriented control means in field oriented control we are getting the component which will be treated as a DC component. So we are getting only two components of your system, that is called as IQS and IDS. So that's why this whole system will be treated as a field oriented control scheme of your induction motor drive. Okay, now friends, we are moving toward why we need the field oriented control. So as we know that friends, in day to day life we are using the induction motor in various purpose. Such induction motors are used for the industrial motion control, as well as these induction motors are also used in a different home appliances. So for the sake of that, the control of this induction motor is very very important. So friends, if you want to control these of the induction motor with the greater efficiency, or we call it as a higher efficiency, so that will be very very challenging task for all of us. So basically for sake of that, as we know that the induction motor mathematical model will be the quietly complex, because as we know that the basic working principle of your induction motor is basically dependent upon the rotating magnetic field. So it will be the rotating magnetic field in a three-phase direction. So the mathematical model is quietly complex in concept of induction motor. And the second, you know that this whole system is rotating, that is 120-degree, because as we are given the three-phase supply to your stator winding of your induction motor. So obviously this supply will be basically dependent upon the, that will be the three-phase supply will be depending upon the time, because the phase quantities are with respect to time, so it will produce non-linear characteristics during the saturation. So basically to overcome that particular thing, that is a complex mathematical model and non-linearity characteristics during the saturation, means without time frame or without reference to the time, that is a time invariant quantities, we will require some of the technique for the better understanding of the control scheme of your induction motor. So that's why we are need of the field oriented control. Okay, so now we can move towards what is the basic concept of the field oriented control scheme. So basically in field oriented control scheme, it is a control method, or we call it as it is a vector control method, because as we are seen in the classification, it is one of the type of the vector control technique. So it is a control technique, or we call it as a advanced control technique of a brushless AC motor drive, because as we know that brushless AC motor drives are called as our induction motors. Okay, so which allows the independently and practically. Basically this word is very very important, that is called as independent and practically, because as we know that friends, in the field oriented control scheme, these all quantities are not dependent on the each other, or they can not depending on the each other, so they are working on the independently and practically. And basically the inertialess means, as we seen, basically the time invariant quantity, and we are getting the value of the rotation speed, or we call it as omega m, and we are getting the value of the torque on the motor shaft. So this whole scheme will be treated as a field oriented control. Okay, so friends, in field oriented control, simply we can convert the phase quantity into a stationary frame quantity, that is the alpha beta. And now the stationary frame quantities are converted into direct axis component and quadrature axis component. We call it as a arbitrary frame, or we call it as a rotating frame of your induction motor. So we can get the value of the rotation of speed. So we can get the value of the rotation speed by means of your flux, because as we know that the basic principle of your induction motor, that is the rate of change of flux with respect to time, that is E will be the generation of voltage, that is E is equal to minus d phi by dt. So we are getting the value of the rate of change of flux with respect to time along with the value of your torque. So that scheme will be treated as a field oriented control. Okay, so friends, now we can understand what will be the working principle of your field oriented control. So basically the AC motors will be identified to the orthogonal components that can be visualized with a vector. Basically, this will be the one of the technique of your vector control technique. So obviously, the AC motor will be identified by means of your two orthogonal components. These two orthogonal components will be IDQ and IQS, or we call it as it is IDS or IQS. That is a current in the stator winding and current in the rotor winding. So basically we are getting two components. So these components, because as we know that the rate of change of current or the rate of change of flux, so we are getting the first component of the field oriented control, that is called as flux, or we call it as psi. Okay, basically it is a magnetic flux. Okay, that is magnetic flux density, and the second component will be the torque, and we are getting the value of the torque. Okay, so this component we are getting from the field oriented control scheme. So basically what we are getting that from the field oriented control scheme, so the simple concept is there. So the machine's current and voltage is space vector. So as we know that the transformation from three phase quantity into a dependent, that is independent, or we call it as a time invariant system, by means of the effective pulse width modulation generation. So again friends, very very simple principle is here. Again we are converting the three phase quantity, that is A, B and C, this three phase quantity into alpha into beta frame quantity. Now we are converting this into D and Q frame. So this will be the simple working principle or the basic principle of your field oriented control. Okay, so basically from the principle of the field oriented control, we are getting only two orthogonal components. First component will be magnetic flux, that is psi, or we call it as phi, or second component will be torque. So we are getting the value of the dq frame by means of that d axis frame. Obviously will give you the value of your flux, and the q axis component obviously will provide you the value of your torque. So this will be the very basic principle of your field oriented control. Okay, now friends, we can understand this basic principle by means of this diagram. So friends, as we know that this will be the diagram, we call it as the machine diagram, or we call it as a diagram which will be basically working of your FOC, that is field oriented control. So first of all, we can understand what do you mean by the transformation. So this will be the region which will be show the transformation. So as we seen that this is the transformation, that is I can again write for your sake, that is a phase transformation, or we call it as the Clark transformation. So Clark transformation. So we are getting that is the stationary frame. Now this stationary frame will be converted into a rotating frame by means of Park transformation. So we want to understand this transformation first of all. Okay, so friends, what we are getting, suppose we are applying the three phase supply, that will be the IA, IB and IC to your control block, or we call it as Clark transformation technique. So we are converting this quantity of ABC into DS and QS. So what do we mean by the DS and QS? Basically, we call it as the component which will be converted into a stationary frame, and this will be done by means of your Clark's transformation. Means we are converting that the phase quantity into a stationary frame quantities. Now from that particular stationary phase quantity, now we are converting these all values into a rotary frame. So this will be the reference value, or we are getting the value from the stationary frame, that is IDS and IQS. Now we are giving the supply from that particular block to this block. So in that particular block, what we are getting, we are converting that the DS and QS quantity, that is the stationary frame quantity, into a rotating frame quantity, and we call it as, it is the DE and QE, where DE and QE will be representation of the equivalent values of the direct axis and quadrature axis component by means of the rotating frame quantity. So this conversion will be basically given by the different quantities. So from that particular different quantities, we are getting the value, that is machine DQ model. So now the induction motor model will be converted into a rotating frame quantity, that is only two orthogonal components. First orthogonal component will be your psi, and second orthogonal component it will be your q. So as we seen that the flux will be responsible to produce in a d axis component, and that will be the torque will be produced by the q axis component. So friends, this will be the actual basic transformation or working principle of your field oriented control scheme. So in field oriented control scheme, we are getting the value of IDS. So I can show this will be the value of the IDS. So this IDS will be basically representation of your magnetic flux, and the IQS, we call it as IQS because IQS will be basically responsible for the production of the torque. So this will be the IQS will be responsible for your torque, and IDS will be responsible for flux. So again I can write, so IDS will be responsible for the flux, and IQS will be responsible for torque. So friends, as we know that induction motor model or the induction machine now will be converted into a rotating frame quantity. So it has a two orthogonal component. First one which will be called it as flux, it is magnetic flux density psi, and second one will be the torque. So this is called as a transformation. So similarly friends, we are getting the inverse transformation, because sometime we will require for the some of the machine the inverse transformation is there. So what do you mean by the inverse transformation? We want to follow the reverse order step of this transformation. So what we are getting now, we want to convert the value of this IDS and IQS into your stationary frame quantity, friends. So we are giving the supply, we are having the value of this cos theta e and sin theta e, where cos theta e and sin theta e we call it as a unit vector of the transformation. So this will be the cos theta e and sin theta e. So we are getting this value to your terminal box. So this will be the terminal box in which we can convert that the rotating frame quantity into a stationary frame quantity. So DE and QE, now it will be converted to the DS and QS, because same in the reverse manner look like a transformation. So it is inverse transformation. So this will be the term which we called it as the inverse of the previous transformation. So we are getting the terms from the rotating frame quantity into a stationary frame quantity. So we are getting the stationary frame quantity. So we are getting the value of IQS star and IDS star. Okay. So now from these stationary frame quantities are again converted into a phase quantity. So DS and QS. So DS and QS are again called it as the stationary frame quantity, and now the stationary frame quantities are again converted into a phase quantity. This is called as a inverse transformation. So this is called as a inverse transformation of your induction motor model by means of your basically field oriented control scheme. Okay, so this will be the actual basic understanding or working of your field oriented control. Now we can understand again basic principle by means of the theoretical means. So simply, as we have seen, the ABC is converted into IDS and QS, that will be in the stationary frame, and now these are converted into a rotating frame, that is IDS and IQs, that we had already discussed. Again I can write the ABC conversion to IDS, IQS. This IDS and IQS are called as a stationary frame, and now we are converted into rotating frame, that is IDS and IQS. So this will be the working principle. Okay. So in that controller, basically we are getting two inverse transformation. So that we had already discussed what doing by the two inverse transformation. So two inverse transformation, we want to convert that the stationary, or we call it as the rotating frame, into a stationary frame. Now the stationary frame is converted into a phase quantity. So obviously from synchronous decay model we are converting into a stationary frame model, and now we are converting that the stationary frame model into a phase quantity, means in reverse order. We call it as inverse transformation. What means what I can write in different way. So simple, the rotating frame quantity will be converted into rotating frame quantity will be converted into a stationary frame quantity, and now this stationary frame quantity will be converted into a phase quantity, that is ABC. So this is called as a inverse transformation. So this will be the first inverse transformation, and this will be the second inverse transformation. So this will be the basic idea behind the field oriented control. So friends, as we seen in that particular scheme, so the torque component will be available along with your q coordinate. So as we have seen from the phasor diagram, because in the phasor diagram we seen that the torque will be produced to the, this will be the IDS and this will be the IQS. So this is q axis component, this will be the d axis component. So d axis component will give you the production of your flux, so this will be the called it as psi, and the q axis component will be give you the value of the torque. So these are the coordinates. So the coordinate of your torque will be responsible for your q axis component, and the flux component will be aligned with your d axis component. Okay, so this, the flux will be for your d coordinate, and torque will be for your q coordinate. So basically this will be the current space vector representation of three-phase sinusoidal system, because three-phase system will be converted into a stationary frame. Now this frame will be converted into a rotating frame. So we call it as a conversion from ABC to alpha beta. We call it as this transformation will be the Clark's transformation. So this Clark transformation, basically time variant system, means it will be dependent upon time. But as we friends, now we are converting this, the value of your alpha and beta, we call it as, this will be the value of your alpha and beta. Now these stationary frame quantities are converted into a rotating frame quantity, and this is called as Park transformation. And basically in concern with the field oriented control, we are getting the all values of the system will be time invariant, means these systems or these values are does not dependent upon the time. So this will be the basic idea behind the transformation of your field oriented control. Now friends, we can understand in detail what do you mean by the Clark transformation. So as we seen the transformation from your phasor quantity. So friends, first of all we can understand this will be the phase quantity. So this will be the, I can write, this will be the phase A, this will be the phase B, this will be the phase C. So each phase will be displaced by 120 degree from each other. So it is 120 degree from each other. AB, that is BC, and CA. So the phase displacement between the each phase will be 120 degree. So friends, from the Clark transformation we are converting this a phase transformation of ABC quantity into a two phase or two phase stationary component. So I can show this stationary component with the help of the different color. So we are getting the value of this quantity, we call it as the alpha frame. So we are converting this frame quantity or phase quantity into a stationary frame quantity, we call it as alpha, and second we call it as beta. So what do you mean by is alpha? So it will be the current flowing through that particular alpha frame, and the current will be flowing, that is the stator value of your current will be flowing through that the beta frame. So the angle between alpha and is beta will be the 120 degree. If you want to get the resultant of this term, so we are getting the value of the is, so we call it as is. Okay, so if you want to get the value of or we want to find out the value of the is alpha, so as we know that as shown in that particular phasor diagram, the is alpha is equal to ia, because these all values are in phase quadrature with each other. So we can get the value of is alpha because we want to convert that the ABC value into alpha into beta frame. So we want to calculate now the value of the is alpha and is beta. So as shown in the phasor diagram, we are getting the value of is alpha is equal to ia, because these whole quantities are in phase quadrature with each other. And the second term, which is called as is beta, means you want to calculate the value of this current. So we are getting the value of is beta. We are getting this value, that is ia by root 3 plus 2ia b by root 3. So basically the value of ia, that will be the current flowing through that particular phase, that is A, and the current flowing through the phase, that will be call it as B. So basically if you want to get the value of the ISB, so it will be getting from the value of IA by root 3 plus 2 IB by root 3. So this will be call it as Clark transformation. Okay. So after understanding of the Clark transformation, now we can move towards the next transformation, and this transformation will be very very important. We call it as a Park transformation. So what we are getting in the Park transformation, basically in Park transformation we are converting, I can write, so we can get the concept. So we can convert, that will be the stationary frame quantity into rotating frame, that will be the stationary frame quantity will be converted into a rotating frame. So this will be done with the help of rotating frame. So this will be called it as Park transformation. So friends, first of all we can understand, so this will be the alpha and beta. So alpha and beta will be called it as the stationary frame component that we had already derived from the different phase value of component. So this is called as alpha frame, this is called as beta frame. This will be the stationary frame. Now friends, we want to convert that the stationary frame into a rotating frame, and this rotating frame, now I can so this will be the value of is alpha and is beta that we had already derived earlier. Okay, so this will be called it as the alpha beta component, we call it as the stationary frame component. Now we want to convert this stationary frame component into a rotating frame. So I can again show with the help of the different color, so we can get the concept. So now we want to convert this frame into a direct axis component. So I can show you here. This will be the direct axis component. This is T, or we call it as direct axis component, direct axis component. And this will be the quadrature axis component, that is Q, quadrature axis component. So this is the D and this will be the Q. Okay, and the current which will be flowing through that particular D axis and Q axis component with a rotating value, or we call it as a WR. Okay, or we call it as a rotating frame component, that is W theta. Okay, so basically this is stationary frame. Now this rotating frame, because as we know that the whole phase of your induction motor will be continuously rotating, means we are converting this the stationary frame quantity into a rotating frame quantity. So friends, the angle between this d axis and q axis will be obviously the 90-degree. If you want to get the value of the resultant of this system, so we are getting the value of the resultant of this system. So this resultant system, obviously in concern with the d-axis component, we are getting the value of the psi, or we call it as magnetic flux, and in concern with your q-axis component, we are getting the value of your torque. So if you want to get the value of ISD and ISQ, because ISD will be the current which will be flowing through the d-axis component, and ISQ will be the current which will be flowing through the q-axis component. So we are getting the value of this ISD and ISQ by means of the simple component with respect to your alpha and beta frame. So if you want to get the value of ISD, and what do you mean by the ISD? The current flowing through the stator winding with respect to the d-axis component. So it will give you IS alpha cos theta plus ISB sin theta. So we are getting this term by means of the simple mathematical model, or we call it as these quantities are getting from the phasor diagram. So we are getting the value of ISD is equal to IS alpha cos theta plus IS beta sin theta. And similarly, we can get the value of ISQ. And what should be the value of the ISQ? It is IS alpha sin theta plus ISB cos theta. So friends, we are getting the values in concern with the time invariant system, and basically this is called as a Park transformation. Okay. So after that, friends, we can understand what are the different types of the field oriented control, because this will be the basic fundamental thing of the field oriented control scheme. Now we want to understand what will be the basic principle of the system. So friends, Now we can understand the system of this technique. So what are the different classifications of your field oriented control? So the field oriented control system will be classified into two types. So first type will be called it as a direct field oriented current control scheme. So as we seen that it is direct field oriented control scheme, means in that particular scheme the rotation of angle of your system that will be controlled directly by the changing of flux, okay, or by the measuring of the air gap flux. So this system will be called it as direct field oriented current control. Means simply in direct field oriented control we are getting the value of the flux directly. So you can get the value of the flux directly by means of the measuring of your air gap flux. So this will be the first type of your field oriented control. And the next type of the field oriented control scheme, it is called as indirect field oriented control scheme. So in that particular indirect vector, or we call it as indirect field oriented current control scheme, we are getting the value of the rotor angle is being measured indirectly. Means in this scheme we are getting the value of the rotor angle indirectly, means by measuring of your slip speed. So friends, in that particular scheme we are getting the value of the current, not directly. This getting the value of the rotor angle by means of the flowing of your current. We are getting this value by means of indirectly, means in terms of your slip speed. Basically, as we know that what do you mean by value of your slip? So slip P will be responsible for the ns minus nr upon ns. Okay, so if you want to get the value of the slip speed, so this will be responsible for the production of the synchronous speed and the rotor speed. So we have the formula of the synchronous speed, that is ns is equal to 120 f upon p, and we have the value of nr is equal to ns into 1 minus s. So friends, in concern with the indirect field control, we are again controlling the value of the rotor angle, but in terms of the slip speed. So that will be the difference in between direct field control scheme and the indirect field oriented control scheme. So friends, now we can study detailedly what should be the basic block diagram of your direct field oriented control. So the name itself indicates its meaning. So in that the direct field oriented control, we can control the value of the rotor angle directly, means by measurement of the air gap flux. So as shown in figure, this will be the scheme which will be called it as FOC, that is field. I can write for your sake of understanding. It is field oriented control. So it is FOC. So friends, as we seen that particular FOC command, okay, first of all, this will be your induction motor. Okay, we are giving the supply to induction motor by means of inverter. So from induction motor we can connect one sensor which we call it as the speed sensor. So this speed sensor will give you the reference speed of that particular induction motor to the flux vector measurement, or we call it as a flux vector estimator. Okay, so from that particular induction motor again we are giving the stator value of your current. It will be sensing from induction motor stator value, and sensing what will be the reference value of your voltage. So this will be the voltage, this will be the current, and this will be the speed. Okay, so these are the three reference quantity that we are giving to the flux vector measurement or estimator. So this flux vector measurement or estimator will convert that the quantity into a flux estimator. Okay, and now we are given this the reference, or we are getting the output from the flux vector measurement or estimation block, that is called as theta s, to your FOC control block. So in field oriented control system, as we seen that in field oriented control system we are converting the different quantities, that is three phase quantity into basically alpha beta frame. Now we are converting this alpha beta frame into a DQ frame, and now we are giving that the quantities of DQ frame to your inverter circuit. So this inverter circuit will now control basic parameters of your induction motor by changing the stator voltage of your induction machine. So this whole system will be called it as a field oriented control system. So friends, in field oriented control system we are getting the two different commands to your FOC, because we want to give the value to your FOC. First one command which we call it as flux, we call it as magnetic flux density, that is psi, and this will be the component which will be the torque. So friends, in the direct field oriented control, we can get the value of the different values of your rotor angle of your induction motor by directly measurement of air gap flux. So that's why this scheme will be called it as direct field oriented control scheme of your induction motor. So now we can understand again this concept by means of the detail block diagram. So friends, as we see in that particular detail block diagram, we are using the inverse transformation. So for the sake of the inverse transformation, the V of I, so I can write the meaning of V of I, that is variable frequency inverter. That is frequency inverter. So as we friends, so from that particular variable frequency inverter, we are giving the supply to your induction motor. So this will be your induction motor. So from induction motor, we can measure the value of the reference speed. So now we can give this reference speed to your speed command. Okay, so this will be the first part. So we want to control the value of your torque. So if you want to control the value of torque, we want to control the speed of your induction motor. So from the stator winding of your induction motor, we are giving the different reference frame or reference value of current as well as voltage, that is voltage as well as current, to your voltage model estimator, or we call it as a flux estimator. So from that the flux estimator value, we are giving the reference value, that is cos theta I and sin theta I, to your model. We call it as VR. So basically this will be the very important block of your circuit. So this will be the cos theta I and sin theta I we are giving here. So friends, while we are giving the speed to the speed sensor, so this will be basically your summing point. So in summing point, we are giving the value of the reference speed, or we call it as a reference speed, that is called as omega r. So G1 is called as the gain of your control scheme. So the G1 will be called it as the gain of your torque control loop. So I can write, so it will be the gain of your torque control loop, that is torque control loop. So from that we can generate the value of IQS, because as we know that the IQS will be responsible for the generation of your torque. Okay, so this will be the responsible for torque. Now we are converting this the value of your DQ frame, we call it as a rotating frame component, into a stationary frame component. So this will give you the stationary frame components, which will be IQS and IDS. So IDS and IQS are the stationary frame component. So again we are converting that the two-phase quantity into a three-phase quantity, means this will be the inverse transformation. So we are converting that the stationary frame component into a phase component. So from this particular block, we are getting the value of IA and IB and IC. Now we are giving this supply to your inverter circuit. Now we are giving this supply to your induction motor, basically with the help of that particular variable frequency inverter circuit. Okay, so this will be the first part for the controlling of your torque. And the second part, if you want to get the value of the flux control, so we can give this value of your flux command to that particular block. So this will be the summing point. So in summing point, we are giving the value of the psi r. We call it as the flux, that is the reference flux. So we are giving the value that particular. So we are getting the value of G2, where G2 is the gain of the flux control scheme. Okay, so from that we are getting, as we know that the IQS will be responsible, IQS will be responsible for the production of psi, or we call it as magnetic flux density. So from that particular, that the supply will be given to your VR block. So VR block, again, that the converting, that is the basically q axis quantity into a stationary frame. So this stationary frame, basically this quantity of the rotating frame, now it will be converted into a stationary frame. Now this stationary frame is again converted into a phase quantity, and now this three-phase supply will be given to your induction motor. So this whole scheme will be treated as an direct field oriented control. So we are getting only two orthogonal components. First orthogonal component, we call it as flux, that is psi, and second will be, that is torque. Okay, so this is called as direct field oriented control scheme. Now we can understand the basic fundamental of this concept by means of the phasor representation of the rotor flux orientation. Okay, so in that particular rotor flux orientation, first of all we want to convert the quantity, which we call it as direct axis and quadrature axis. So this will be the ds and this will be the qs. So as we seen that in ds will be responsible for the production of your psi, we call it as flux. So it will be given the direction, that is phi dr, and the qx, we are getting the flux, that is phi d or we call it as phi QR. It is a rotor flux basically. So if you want to get the resultant of this term, so we want to get the value of IDS with respect to DE frame, that is a unit vector. QU is a unit vector because this will be basically give you the value in the rotating frame quantity, that is DE and QE. The angle between these will be the 90 degree. So omega E is the rotating frame component because this will be omega E is the speed of your unit vector. Okay, so if you want to get the value of the IDS and IQS, so you want to convert this value of IDS into IQS. So friends, from this figure we can get the value of your torque by means of your IQS, and the value of your flux will be getting from your D-axis component. So friends, as we seen from that particular phasor representation, the torque can be negative, which is result the negative phase orientation IQS in the phasor diagram. So friends, if you want to get the value of the torque in negative direction, we can get the phasor representation in the negative direction. We call it as IQS cos alpha, or IQS, that is theta E. So basically IQS cos theta in a negative direction because we are getting the value of your torque from your quadrature axis component. So this will be the actual phasor representation, or we call it as a rotor flux representation of your direct field oriented control scheme. Similarly, now we can get the value of your direct axis field component, that we are getting the value of your psi. Okay, so friends, we are converting that is DE frame into a, with the help of the synchronous speed, that we call it as omega E. With respect to stationary frame, that will be the call it as inverse transformation, and we are getting this value with respect to t. Means we are getting the value of the angular position theta E, and that will be nothing but the synchronous speed with respect to time. So friends, we are converting this frame, that will be called it as time invariant system. From phasor diagram, we are getting the value of the psi drs. So the psi drs means what? It is d-axis flux with respect to your rotor circuit. So we are getting the value, that is psi into cos theta e, and psi qrs is equal to psi sin theta e. So if you want to get the value of the psi, so simply we are getting this value by means of the square root of psi s dr square plus psi s qr square. So similarly, this will be the expression will be look like is previous, that is is equal to, that is is b square plus is q square. So we are getting the value in terms of your only flux. Okay, that is the difference in that particular frame. Okay, so now friends, we want to understand this whole principle by means of the simple phasor diagram. So basically the component we call it as cos theta e and sin theta e are the signals in the is position as shown. So we are getting the value of cos theta e and sin theta e. So basically this is the very important block that we had already studied, that is called as vector rotation block. So the vector rotation block will be responsible for that particular conversion. So these unit vector quantities, when we are used in the vector rotation block, it will cause to produce the IDS and IQS orientation of the d-axis. So we are getting the value in concern with that particular thing. So I can write, so this will be the responsible for IDS quantity, this will be the responsible for IQS quantity. So we have the very basic relationship between IDS and IQS that we had already derived earlier. So this will be the expression that we had already derived earlier. So this will be the similarity between psi and is. So I can show with the help of that particular phasor representation. So this will be the actual representation. So this will be for your d-axis component, this will be for your q-axis component, and this will be shown by this representation. So finally, from waveform, we can say that the two component, the first component should be called it as a DC quantity. These all are in phase quadrature with each other. So obviously from that particular figure, I can show you this will be the simple component, or we call it as the psi dr frame with respect to your stator frame. And the second, that is psi qr. So as we seen that particular diagram, if you want to plot the value of cos theta e and sin theta e, so these are the responsible for the production of the IDS component, and this will be the resultant unit vector component, which will be called it as sin theta e. So from that particular thing, we are getting the value of the flux, that is a direct axis flux. We call it as psi drs with respect to a rotor circuit. Similarly, if you want to get the value of iqs, so it will be the quadrature axis rotor current, which will be responsible for the quadrature axis rotor flux. So these all quantities are in phase with each other. So we are getting this very important concept by means of this diagram. Now friends, we are converted into a second type of field oriented control scheme, and this is the field oriented control scheme, which is called as the indirect field oriented control scheme. So friends, in that particular scheme, as we seen that the rotor angle will be controlled indirectly by means of the slip speed. Okay, so in that particular indirect field oriented control, we want to control the value of your rotor angle. I can write by means of a simple word, means you want to control the value of the rotor angle in terms of slip speed. Yes, connecting we are controlling this value not directly but indirectly through that particular slip speed. So for the sake of understanding friends, now we can understand the detailed block diagram of this circuit. So in this particular circuit, we can see this will be the three-phase induction motor. This will be your three-phase induction motor. Okay, so basically the PWM inverter is there. So this will be the PWM inverter is there. From a three-phase induction motor, we are sensing the speed by means of the encoder circuit, and we are giving this value of your flux to your different loop. So friends, now we can understand. In the previous direct field oriented control, we can directly control this value of omega r with respect to your flux and the speed quantities. But in indirect field control, now we want to convert this in terms of slip speed. So as we seen that, what will be the fundamental formula of your slip? That is ns minus nr upon ns. So if you want to control the scheme by means of the indirect field oriented control, means we want to control now in terms of its slip. So that's why we can write it as an 1 minus, or we call it as 1 upon s, because as we know that friends, if you want to control in concern with the indirect field control, we want to control the rotor angle in terms of your slip speed. So that's why we are giving that is 1 upon s quantity. Similarly, we are giving this 1 minus s quantity to your summing point, to that particular reference frame. And now we can giving that the reference generation to that particular block. Okay, so friends, from that particular block, now we are giving this speed, that is reference speed, to your speed control block. So we are giving this will to your speed reference block. So from that particular summing point, now friends, we are getting the two different things. First one, now we want to convert the value of the flux. So this will be the block which will be called it as a flux reference generation. So from that particular flux reference generation, we can get the value of the flux value in concern with the generation. So we are getting the value that is psi rad. And what do you mean by psi rad? It is a flux, or we call it as d-axis rotor flux quantity, and we are getting the input to your fuzzy logic controller. So in fuzzy logic controller, we can control the value of your speed, and as we know that it will be responsible for the production. So this is called as q-axis component, and this will be called it as d-axis component. So the d-axis will be responsible for flux, that's why we are getting the flux quantity, but the q-axis component will be responsible for torque, so we are getting the torque quantity. So we are getting the concept. Here we are getting psi, that is flux, here we getting torque. Now we can given this both output, because as we know that the torque will be responsible, that is isq, it is a current flowing, that is a quadrature axis current flowing through the stator winding. Now we are giving this term to your PI controller, where PI is the proportional integral controller of your induction motor, or we call it as it is the latest controller, which is called as proportional and integral controller. And similarly, we are giving the value of the current, which will be the d-axis stator value of current, to your summing point, and from summing point we are giving the reference to your PI controller. Okay, so this is the PI controller. So this PI controller will convert that the current quantities into VSQ. Means basically VSQ is the quadrature axis stator voltage quantity. So now we are giving this term to your inverter circuit. All we call it as, it will be the transformation model. So similarly, we are giving the flux quantity with reference to your d-axis component of your voltage. So it is called as VSD. So what do you mean by VSD? It is the d-axis component of your stator voltage. Now we are giving these volt terminals to your DQ by BC transmission. So we call it as inverse transmission. Okay. So by means of that, the transformation should be called it as inverse transformation. So in that particular inverse transformation, we are converting this D and Q model into a ABC frame quantity. And now this ABC supply will be given to your inverter circuit. Now we are giving the supply to your inverter circuit. So from that particular inverter circuit, now we want to control the speed of your induction motor by means of the changing value of your inverter firing angle. So this will be the control strategy. Similarly, friends, while we are getting the reference value of the current from the different phases, that is called as ISB, that is ISA. Okay, first of all we can understand ISA first phase, ISB second phase, ISC third phase. We are giving this reference value to your three phase block. So in that particular three phase block, we are converting that the three phase quantity, which is ABC quantity, into DQ quantities, and now we are giving the reference value to that particular summing point. Your D-axis component, that is called as ISD, where ISD is called as the direct axis stator value of your current. Similarly, we are getting the value of ISQ. So it will be the value of your quadrature axis stator current. So we are giving the input to that particular summing point. So from that particular ISQ and IS, basically this quantity, we can control the value of your PI. So this PI controller will give you the change with respect to your current quantities into voltage quantity, and we are getting the indirect field orientation control of your induction motor. So this is the basic block diagram, or we call it as a working of your indirect field oriented control. Now friends, we can understand this whole concept by means of phasor representation. So as we seen in that particular phasor representation, first of all we can write what are the different terms. So I can write the first of all terms which are involved in that particular phasor. So I can write omega r, it is called as the rotor speed. Then the second quantity, which is called as that is theta SL, it is the slip angle. Because in concern with the indirect vector control came, if you want to control the rotor angle in terms of slip speed, so we are getting the value of the slip angle. Then WSL will be the slip frequency. These are the some new words for us, because these all terms are converted into a slip speed. Okay, so then the next, that is omega E, we call it as omega E is a stator frequency. It is stator frequency. Omega m, we call it as omega m, it is rotor mechanical speed. Because we want to understand this term first of all, and then we are moving towards a phasor diagram. Okay, then we call it as theta e is equal to angle of synchronous rotating frame, that is synchronous rotating frame. And theta r is called as angle of rotor. Similarly, we are having the value of psi dss, so it is, we call it as d-axis stator flux linkage. And we write down that is phi, or we call it as psi dr r. So it is d-axis rotor flux linkage. Okay, so friends, basically now we can understand the phasor representation. So basically friends, this will be the d-axis component, the stator value, this will be the q axis component of your rotor value. So basically D and S, that is q and S. Basically omega r, we call it as a rotor speed. Omega e, it is called as a stator frequency. This will be the position of your rotor. Okay. Now friends, from that particular rotor position, we are getting the value of the different terms. So as we know that the d-axis component will be responsible for the production of your flux. So that is the flux which will be getting the value, that is a psi d rs. So it is the d-axis rotor flux linkage, and q, or we call it psi qr, it is the quadrature axis rotor flux linkage. Similarly we are getting the value of phi scr. So this will be the representation with respect to rotor, and basically this will be the, friends, I can show you, this will be the value of your previously rotor axis. This is the rotor axis, the value of your theta e. So I can show you the value of the theta e is the angle of synchronous rotating frame. So this will be the theta e, is the angle of the synchronous rotating frame. Okay, so this is theta e. The angle that is theta r, it is the angle of rotor, because previously the rotor will be positioned at the rotor axis. Now it will be turned by the changing of its angle. So this will be the theta r, it is the angle of your rotor. So now this will be the basically omega r, it is the rotor speed. Now it will be changing your its direction by means of the direct axis component, means d axis component will move here. So we are getting the value of the different frequency. Now we are getting the value in terms of q theta and d theta, or we call it as it is de and qe. So this is de and qe. So friends, this is done with the help of the slip angle. So this will be the value of your slip angle, we call it as slip angle, theta sl. This will be the angle which is theta sl, and with the help of the frequency, and that the frequency is omega sl, we have written here, that is wsl is the frequency, we call it as a slip frequency. So friends, we are getting the value of the IDS component and IQS component with reference to that, friends. So this will be the IDS component, this will be the IQS component, and we are getting the resultant value of IS. So friends, from that particular figure, we are getting the value of your IDS and IQS quantities, while we are referencing the value of your rotor speed, or we call it as the value of the rotor angle, by means of the change in the slip speed. And this is the very important parameter, we call it as theta sl. It is called as the by means of the slip angle, because this will be the very important angle. We can write with the help of the yellow color, so we can get, so this will be the very important angle, because from that particular thing we are controlling the value of your rotor angle with the help of your slip angle. Okay, so this will be the very important concept in the indirect field control. Now friends, we can understand this whole concept by means of the simple frame. So for sake of that, now we can derive some of the terms. So except unit vector signals are generated in feed forward manner, so what will be the difference? So we can get the direct vector control and indirect vector control remaining the same, but the major difference is that, the major difference, we call it as the major difference in between direct and indirect control scheme, I can return. So major difference in between, difference between direct and indirect control scheme is that, direct control scheme is that all things are same, except we can write it is except the unit vector, the unit vector, we call it as except the unit vector signals are generated in feed forward manner. So what do you mean by the feed forward manner? Friends, in indirect vector control scheme, we are getting the unit vector, means this term, I can show, means we are getting this term, because previously it was the rotor angle this, so it will be move forward, that is feed forward. So again these quantities move forward by some of the angle. So this will be the major difference, because the basically unit vector which we call it as dr will be, or we call it as a unit vector, that is de, and qa will be move forward by some of the angle. That will be the difference. Okay, means we are converting, or we are getting the value of this slip angle, okay, or slip speed. So that will be the difference in between direct vector control scheme and indirect vector control scheme. So friends, I think everyone has got the clear idea, that the clear idea is what the difference in which what the vector signals are generated in feed forward manner. That will be the only difference, means vector signal not in quadrature, so it will be forward manner. Okay? So now we can write this equation by means of the simple fundamental thing. So we can get the value of omega e is equal to omega r plus omega sl. So we can write this equation number first. So in that particular equation number first, we have the value of omega e is equal to stator frequency. We call it as stator frequency. Value of omega r is equal to rotor speed. Value of omega sl, it will be called it as slip frequency. So slip speed. This is equation number first. Okay. So from equation number first, we can write. So I can use another color. So we can get again. So we can write, that is theta e, where theta e is equal to the angle of synchronously rotating frame. Theta e is equal to integration of omega e dt. So I can write theta e is equal to angle of synchronously rotating frame. So friends, now we are getting the integration of this term. So I can again write, that is theta e is equal to integration of omega e dt, where theta e, again I can write angle of synchronously rotating frame. Omega e is called as the stator frequency with respect to time. Now we want to substitute the value of the equation number first is here, that is omega e is equal to wr, or omega r plus omega sl. So now we can write omega r plus omega sl into dt. So from this equation we are getting the value of theta e, that is the angle of synchronously rotating frame, is equal to theta r plus theta sl. This is the equation number 2, where theta r, you can write here again, theta r is called as the angle of rotor, and theta sl that we had already discussed, it is the slip angle. So theta e, it is the angle of synchronously rotating frame, is equal to the angle of rotor plus angle of slip. Okay, so this will be treated as an equation number 2. So friends, if you want to get the values of these terms in terms of your psi quantities, so as we've seen that from the voltage model of the flux estimation, the machine terminal voltage and currents are sensed, and the fluxes are computed from the stationary frame d axis and q axis. We can getting the different values of your flux equation. So we are getting the value of the flux equations. So now we can write this flux equation is as it is. So we are getting that is psi s ds is equal to integration of, that is v ds minus rs ids with respect to time dt. So this is equation number 3. Similarly, we are getting the value of psi qs, that is psi qs s. We are getting this value, that is integration of vqs minus Rs into IQS into dt. This is the equation number 4. We call it as equation number 4. From equation number 3 and 4, we are getting the equation number 5. So what will be the equation number 5? So we are getting the value of psi r, that is s square, is equal to. So friends, we are getting the value of the flux, that is the rotor flux with respect to square. So we are getting this value of the rotor flux, that is psi dr square, plus that is psi qr, that is the stator flux in direct axis and quadrature axis. So this will be the equation number 5, where we can write that is psi dss, it is the d axis stator flux linkage, that is stator flux linkage, and that is psi dr, we call it as d-axis rotor flux linkage. Similarly, we can get the value of psi qr, it is the d-axis, so we call it as q-axis rotor flux linkage, that will be the same. So these are the equation number 5. Now friends, we can getting this equation from a different thing. So we are getting the value of your component, that is the magnetizing component. So we are getting the value of psi, we call it as psi t ms. So we are getting this term by means of psi ds, that will be the stator frame, minus lis into ids into s. So we are getting this value, that is lm. Lm is magnetizing inductance. We can write into ids plus idr. These all terms are reference to stator. So this will be the equation number 6. Similarly, we can getting the value of the psi qm. It is psi qm. It is air gap flux linkage with respect to your quadrature axis. Okay, so we are getting this term again in terms of the stator. So it will be the psi qs s minus lis into iqss. So we are getting lm, that is iqs s plus iqrs. So this will be equation number 7. So from this particular equation, we are getting that is psi SDM. What do we mean by psi SDM? So it will be the value of the air gap flux linkage d-axis component. Okay. And the second term, that is LIS, because this will be the very important. It is the stator leakage reactance, stator leakage reactance. And as we know that LM is called as the magnetizing inductance. So magnetizing inductance. So we are getting some of the term in concern with that. So friends, this will be the LIS, it is a stator leakage reactance, and LM, it is a magnetizing inductance. Now we can get very important relationship of the next Fraser presentation. We call it as the psi drs is equal to, that is LM into IDS S plus LR, that is IDRS. So this will be the equation number 8. And the equation number 9 we are getting, that is psi SQR, it is LM IQSS plus LR, that is IQRS. So this is the equation number 1. So again I can write what do we mean by the psi dr. So it is psi dr is called it at, I can write psi dr, it is air gap flux, it is air gap flux of rotor with respect to d axis, and we are getting Lm is the Lm will be getting as the magnetizing component of reactance. So magnetizing component of your inductance. So it is magnetizing inductance. So friends, in that particular equation, we are getting one important term, that is the equation that is Lr. So Lr is called as the rotor leakage inductance. Okay. So friends, from this equation, we are getting one important equation, that is psi r is equal to Lm, that is magnetizing inductance, into IDS. So this will be the required expression, because this is psi r, will be call it as a flux which will be produced, or we call it as a flux which will be responsible to produce the rotor flux. We call it as psi r is the rotor flux. We call it psi r is a rotor flux. So it is rotor flux. Okay. So this psi r will be, from this equation we can getting very important term, that is psi r, that is a rotor flux, will be directly proportional to the current, that is IDS, which is the d axis component of current. So we are getting one term, that is psi r, that is rotor flux, will be directly proportional to the direct axis component of your current. So we are getting this very important relationship. So by means of that, while we are changing the value of the IDS, we can control the value of the rotor flux. Means while we are changing the value of the rotor flux, obviously with the help of your rotor angle. So in indirect control scheme, friends, we are controlling the value of your rotor angle indirectly, means in terms of your slip angle. So that will be the very basic and fundamental understanding concept of your indirect vector control scheme. So friends, after that, we can understand what are the different advantages of your field oriented control scheme. So friends, in field oriented control scheme, the first advantage is that by means of the FOC, we can get the improved torque response, because as we know that in concern with the IOC, or we call it as, it will be the FOC. So from FOC, that is field oriented control, we can getting the value of the improved torque response, because the Q axis component will be responsible for your torque. So we can get very good torque by means of this advanced control scheme. Then the second, that is torque control, that low frequency and low speeds are also possible by means of the field oriented control scheme. Then the next advantage, it will give you a dynamic speed accuracy, because we are getting the value in terms of the direct field oriented control scheme and indirect field oriented control scheme. So it will give you a dynamic speed accuracy. Then after that, we are getting the reduction size of motor, or we get it as the cost and power consumption. So obviously the size of your motor will be reduced by means of that particular field oriented control, and cost and power consumption is also less while we are using this control scheme for your induction machine. So by means of the field oriented control scheme, we are getting the all four quadrants operation of your motor. So the motor will be operated in first quadrant, second quadrant, third quadrant, and fourth quadrant. So obviously the drive will be operated in forward motoring, forward braking, reverse motoring, and reverse braking operation. So that will be one of the advantage of your field oriented control. So after that, the advantage of your FOC, we call it as field oriented control scheme, that will be the short term overload capacity. So by means of these controls scheme, we can getting the short term overload capacity of your induction motor. So these are some of the advantages of your field oriented control scheme. So now we can discuss about some of the disadvantages of your field oriented control scheme. So the first disadvantage of your field oriented control scheme is that with the number of steps involved to conversion from three phase to two phase DQ model, this method is complex in nature, because we want to convert this model of your three phase quantity into two phase stationary quantity. We want to use the Clark transformation from two phase stationary frame quantity into a two phase rotating frame quantity. Then again we want to the Park transformation. So this method of the complexity is more in concern with the field oriented control scheme. Okay, so this will be the first disadvantage. And the second disadvantage is that this method will be the impractical with complete accuracy. So while we are calculating or while we are controlling the speed of your induction motor by means of that particular field oriented control, so this method is not practical method, so this method will be impractical, and the accuracy of this system which will be not compatible with the system. So this will be another disadvantage of your field oriented control. After that, friends, we can understand what are the different applications of your field-oriented control. So basically, field-oriented control scheme will be applicable in most of the industrial application. So the first industrial application, it will be used for the automation robotics. So in robotics, as we know that the different robots that we are using for the different machining process. So for the sake of the controlling of that method, we are using this FOC, that is field oriented control scheme, for your induction machine or the different types of machines that we are using in the industry. Similarly, we can use the field oriented control in the automation servos. So in the automation servos, we are using the different servo motors for the different automation purpose. So this will be the another application of your field oriented control scheme. Similarly, we can using this field oriented control scheme in basically centrifuge. So this will be the representation of the centrifuge, and for the controlling of that particular centrifuge, we can use such type of control technique which is called as field oriented control. So friends, in this way we have detailedly study about what do we mean by the field oriented control scheme, what are its different types, its detailed working principle along with its advantages, disadvantages and applications of field oriented control scheme. Thank you.